Okay, well now we're going to do the zipper, and you will need two things for this. You will need both your zipper and your zipper ends. Now these were cut from the piece F's at the beginning when we were cutting them out, but they're a little bigger than what we need. So go ahead and trim this to 3 inches by 1 inch, or 7.5 by 2.5 centimeters. And this is a size 3 zipper. If you want to do it with a 4.5 or 5 size 4.5 or size 5 zipper, you can, but I wouldn't really recommend it. This is the one that I tried using a bigger zipper. As you can see, it kind of is bulging here at the edge, and the corners were really kind of a struggle to get looking good. It would have looked better if I used black instead of orange, but I just think it's a little cleaner with a standard size 3 zipper. But if all you have are 4.5 or 5, you can make it work. Okay, these are my zipper end pieces that I trimmed to the correct width and length. And I'm now going to, and I have 13 inches of zipper total. I just had to trim a little bit off from here, and this edge of the zipper tape is about 3/4 inches long, which is what I suggest to have for the large 11.5 inches of finished tape, and then 3/4 at each end that'll be covered up. And for the small, it's a little different. The small is 11.5 inches. Oh no, sorry. Small is 10 inches of total tape, 8.5 inches of zipper showing. Oh, I forgot to say what I'm doing. I'm folding my long ends in and then folding this in half. This becomes my zipper end, and I fit it over the end of my zipper. And I'm going to do this at both ends. In order to get this to fit right, I am going to unzip this zipper and then slip this at the end. Perfect. This wants to slide out. Let me just make sure I have this. There. All right, and I'm going to sew straight across and make sure I'm catching the front and back of my zipper end. One thing I failed to think about is that the next thing you need to do is make specific marks at the end that'll help you when you're sewing. And I have a dark color here, so I might need to use chalk, and I don't know if the chalk will work. First I will try a dark marker and see if that works. Okay, you're going to mark the very center That's going to work. Well, I can see it with my pen. I'm not sure if you can see it. I also think I didn't quite get this center. So, there. And the center on this side. Now, I shouldn't make my mark very big, and I should be using a pen that will disappear, because this might end up showing up in my final purse. If it does, so be it. My grandma won't notice, but I can kind of see the mark. So then I'm going to make a mark 1/4 inch away from that on each side. Okay, so now I have 3 marks next to each other. I'm going to make this with chalk, so hopefully you can see it. But I anticipate that the chalk will come off. Yeah, that didn't really help. Okay. All right, I'm going to set this aside just for a second, because what I need now is my top pieces. This is my zipper, my piece B, my 4B pieces. And I have already marked the magnets where they're going. So I'm going to put this here and mark where the prongs will be going. And then just like before, I need my 2 other sides of my magnets. These are the thin side. I need my 2 washers, and I need my stabilizer pieces. Okay, now I will cut these marks. Okay, and on the back side I will push my magnets through. Take my little Peltex pieces, my washer, and my seam crease. Same thing right here. All right. And I hope you also marked these other marks from the piece. The side marks, the top center, the bottom center, because those are important. I think I also forgot one little step about marking the center of your zipper. So the top and bottom center. So I will do that in a minute, but for now we're going to go on to this step. Place together your exterior, right side together. My workspace is getting full. We'll be sewing from this mark to the bottom on each side. For both the lining and the exterior, so I'm going to put them both together. Looks like I don't have marks on these, so I'm going to transfer my marks really quick. Alright, I transferred the marks onto these lining pieces. And while I was at it, I marked my center of my zipper on both sides too. Okay, I'm going to start with my exterior, and I am sewing with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I start at that top mark, or that middle mark, and I forward and back stitch, and then back stitch at the bottom as well. Same thing on this side. Then I like to just trim it just a little bit. My mouth is getting a little dry from all this talking. And then this side, we're going to start at this mark. We're going to start with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, but we're going to, and back stitching, but we're going to go down to 1/2 inch, 1.3 centimeters. This helps prevent weirdness on the inside so that the lining fits nicely in the exterior. And I'm going to trim this. Okay. Next, we're going to need the zipper. And we're going to need the lining. You're going to fold this lining down, and we're going to find the center of the zipper. It doesn't matter at this point which way you have the zipper. Later on I'll give you some instructions about that. But for now, for the lining, it doesn't matter. Now I have my marking on the back here, and that is where I'm going to match it up with this front part. And I'm going to go across the top straight edge first. And then I'm going to take this down here, and this, you can see where you stopped stitching before, this side seam. Actually, it looks like I started down a little bit from that. So I'm going to make sure I'm going all the way up to that point, because that's important. Okay, so this is folded down, and where these meet is where I'm going to put this center mark, which I know you can't really see. Maybe if I go like this. This center mark is going to match up with this side seam. And so this first mark that's a 1/4 inch away is going to match up with the edge of the fabric. And I have to have this a little at an angle because I want up here the zipper to be at the edge, but it's sticking off a little bit at a little bit of an angle, and that's okay. So it's not perfectly straight with the side, it's at a lot of an angle. And then right here, I match up this straight side with the raw edge, and then I take the remaining zipper tape and this curve, and I clip this on. You use more than one clip if you need. And I'm going to repeat over on this side. And now, my alarm is about to go off to pick my kids up, so I have to do that so my alarm doesn't go off during the during my video. Okay. Now I'm going to suggest that you switch to your zipper foot. We are going to baste this side of the zipper on, and then we will baste the other side. So we're going to start down here at the bottom. And we're going to baste close to the edge with within that 1/4 inch seam allowance. Then as you come around this curve, just do your best to flatten this zipper down. And as I baste right here, I baste at the edge of the fabric, even with this tab sticking over the edge. I try to stick with the lining fabric underneath that I'm basting to. Okay. All right, and now I'm going to repeat with the other side. So right here, I'm going to first match up this center piece with the center of my tab with the side seam, and the other mark that's 1/4 inch away with the edge of the fabric. And then I'm going to repeat that on this side. And then I'm going to clip in between. And I think I actually need to move my zipper tape down just a little bit. Sometimes even though I mark the center of everything, it doesn't end up quite perfectly centered. Okay. And now I'm going to baste this side. The same way as the other one. Okay. So now I am going to trim off these edges right here. These little corner, these triangles that are sticking out. All right, so I've got a finished, or no, I've got a basted zipper, and now I'm going to take my exterior and lining and put them together. So for this part, I'm going to orient my exterior like this, with these snaps visible like this, and the other place folded down. Okay, let me just get my example one for a moment. When I have this closed, this example one, and then I open it up, this works really well for me as a right-handed person to open like this. And then if it's closed and I'm opening it this way, I use my left hand. So really this is a preference. You could have it so that it's easier to open for you when it's closed or when it's open. Either way, I'm going to teach you how to make it with the zipper this way. And if you want it the opposite, then you'll have to do the opposite side that I do it. So with the exterior open like this, I am going to have the zipper head on the right. Yes, okay. And I'm going to fold down the lining like this. The zipper head is right here. And I'm going to place together my lining and exterior right here, and I'm going to match up these center marks all the way around. So I'm doing the middle, the edges, and in between. All right, I'm going to sew with my lining up, but you can sew with the exterior up as well. I'm going to change my needle position to all the way to the left. And I'm sewing here with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And make sure to stop or go forward and back stitch. And as I go around these curves, I'm going to do my very best to flatten this zipper. And it works better if you are able to put your needle down. If you have a button that does that, you can put your needle down when you stop sewing. That makes it a lot easier. Isn't sewing around zippers around little curves the worst part of bag making? I think it is. Of course, I keep doing this to myself on different patterns, so apologies. This is why I prefer the frame version. Okay, so right here I am approaching the zipper head, so I'm just being careful. So I've got one side finished. I'm not going to trim this yet. I'm going to do my other side first, and then I'll trim a little bit off from the curve just to make it turn easier. So we've got this like this. So I'm going to locate the other half of the lining and the exterior and put those together, starting in the center, my center marks. This is the trickiest part, is along these side edges, because we are taking this zipper tab, which can get a little thick. Mine is a little thicker than maybe would be ideal because I wanted to use the exterior fabric. And we're gonna pull this, and then the hard part here is just getting it to stay lined up here with this raw edge, especially on the side with the zipper pull. This side is not too bad, but the other side with the zipper pull, it tends to get in the way when I'm sewing. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. Oh, maybe this is the side with the zipper head. Yeah, it is. Okay, so this is the one that it keeps wanting to pull this way away from the raw edge, so I need to fight it to keep it there so that it is even on the outside. All right, so I'm going to start sewing at that side seam, and as I sew, I'm just going to pull over this lining when it tries to go backwards, or not backwards, sideways. If you can make it through this one part, this is the hardest sewing of the entire thing, I promise. Keep flattening that zipper on the curves. Okay, and then I reach that edge and I back stitch. Okay. I am going to do just a little bit of trimming just on the curves here. I don't want to weaken this zipper too much, but it needs to have some trimming so that when you turn it right side out, it's smooth and not lumpy. All right, so I'm going to use my I'm going to turn it right side out, and then I'm going to take off my free arm. If you want to do this without that, you would top stitch this a little differently. So I guess I'll show you how to do that first. Okay. If you're going to top stitch it without taking the free arm off, then you, oops, sorry, I keep manipulating this off the camera. Okay. So if you want to top stitch it without taking the free arm off, you'll have to do it inside out like this. I like to do it this way. So I'm going to increase my stitch length. And as I get to these curves, I'll just kind of pull it out a little bit. We're going to top stitch all the way to the side seam and then pivot. The bad thing about this fabric is it catches lots of lint. One more pivot. We're getting really close to the end. Just one more curve. So I don't love sewing these zipper versions, but I like using them. They're really handy. Sometimes a frame is just kind of heavy for a wallet. And sometimes I just want to use a zipper. Okay. So I'm just going to trim these and then we will be done. Very nice. And I'm going to just flatten this right here with my hand. If it's sticking in a lot, you can get out your iron and press it flat, but it's okay if it bulges out a little bit. So your side, see if I can get this in the light, there. Your side should look like a nice triangle like that, right here. And we're now going to return to step, oh goodness, my computer turned off. Step 67 in the pattern, and from there on forward it'll be the same for whether you do a frame or a zipper.